there. Well, let's get serious. I was going to mention again that idea. If you happen to have a pencil and paper available, that would be helpful when we get toward the end. If I go over by 5 minutes or so, I hope you'll forgive me, but I'm going to try to make it through this. Now, the first thing getting serious is this. We know that reading achievement in our country, the United States, has been pretty flat for the past 30 years or so. And the question is why? Why is that? Well, one of the things I want you to notice there is I put in the blue highlight NRP. That's the National Reading Panel. 2000 was when it was published, and that really has been identified as the beginning, of the science of reading movement, where the panel looked through the science and told us what really matters when it comes to reading. And of course, we know that phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, phonemic awareness are all part of that. But notice what happens from 2000 to the present. Not much. Okay, we've been in this era now for 20 years and we still haven't seen much. Wouldn't we expect at least a little bit of an improvement here? So what's the reason? Why? Well, everybody who's listening to me, it's a lack of systematic phonics. And, Emily Hanford, I won't go into too much detail on this, but she's been writing about this and doing, sold the story, been writing about this. And, I think all of us in this room will agree. Phonics has got to be part of it. And my model of reading, which is the first page of the handout, does have phonics there. We need to teach it there. And I'd like to draw your attention to this is one of the more recent models of reading. We've heard of the simple view of reading. This is a more recent one by Nell Duke and Kelly Cartwright. It's more sophisticated, if you will. And look where that red or yellow arrow is pointing to word recognition. And within that, we have phonics, decoding, word recognition at sight, and so on. So it's part of that model there. But look, it's much more complicated than that, isn't it? In fact, again, shameless self-promotion. I think one of the best ways of teaching phonics and spelling, for that matter, are word letters. It's a little game I came up with years ago that people have found very popular. Here's a very simple example of it. If you're not familiar with it, you start with the word supper, okay, and then I would guide you through the process of making a series of words, either by adding or subtracting a letter. So take away a letter from supper to make a word that means tremendous, wonderful, okay, super. Take away two letters to make a girl's name, Sue. Add a letter to make a word that means you're certain of something, you're sure, and so on. So you get the idea. And the way I turned this into a game was you start with the first word and the last word go together. Supper, club, right? And I'm really pretty good at this. Hate to brag, but I tend to be pretty good at these sorts of things. But here's what I want you to notice at the bottom right-hand corner. This is based on science, focusing attention on decoding for children with poor reading skills. There's a study done. It's in the scientific journal of Scientific Studies in Reading that found kids who did something like this on a regular basis showed greater improvements in phonologic awareness, phonics, decoding, and comprehension. If you can decode the words, you're more likely to understand, the text you're going to be reading. Here, and this, I post these every Wednesday. I call it Word Ladder Wednesday. So this is the one I actually posted this morning for Valentine's Day. We start with the word be, and then we come to the word my, and the last word is Valentine. So it's Be My Valentine. Again, if you're interested, just drop me a note when we're done here, and I'll make sure that I send it out to you either tomorrow morning. We still have a whole week to deal with that one here. But here's the problem. Phonics is important, but it's not enough. And when we say it's all about phonics, I think we're doing a disservice to kids here. In fact, Natalie Wexler wrote about this not long ago. Just adding more phonics yields short-term gains in reading tests. Recent study found that by fifth grade, whatever benefits were there fade out unless you teach the full complement of skills. Well, let me go back to this model now and ask you to take a look at where that red arrow is pointing, effect size. That's a statistical estimate of the impact of instruction in these areas. So word recognition, the effect size is 0.44, which is pretty good, okay? No problem with that. But let's take a look now where the red arrow points now. This part that's called the bridging process. The effect size there is 0.70, almost double the effect size of word recognition. Oh my gosh. Well, let's take a look at what's inside of this bridging process. Reading fluency, vocabulary, morphology, and all that, but reading fluency. So to not mention reading fluency as the model as part of this, bigger model of reading is really doing a disservice to kids. And as you'll see in a few minutes when I talk more about some of these podcasts, fluency has not been mentioned here. So the